And we're live streaming from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm. And thank you so much for joining us for our unique podcast community. And thank you so much for helping us grow. We just hit 1,804 subscribers on YouTube, and we grow every day thanks to you, people who watch our show and subscribe and share our videos. It means so much. So remember, you can join the chat with our conversation with our artists today and join us and ask questions. And we love to see you guys join in there. It adds a lot to the conversation. To see our over 250 past episodes, check out our website at www.jasontramm.net. Again, that's www.jasontramm.net, and we hope you join us there as well. Our guest today is fantastic. We have Madison Mueller. She is from Barrie, Ontario, and she's a singer-songwriter who's a rising star in the field and doing some really great work. And in 2018, she was nominated and won in the Josie Awards in Nashville, Tennessee, and she won the International Singer-Songwriter Pop Contemporary Rising Star of the Year in 2019, and also Young Adult Female Artist of the Year, Young Adult Artist of the Year in 2018. So she's really doing some great work. We're delighted she could join us. Welcome, Maddie.
Thank you very much for having me. This is so exciting. I'm really pumped to talk about anything and everything under the sun. This is going to be really fun.
I really enjoyed your music, and I look hard to find guests for this show. And when I find someone who's got an interesting perspective and a sound, you certainly have all that. And you write really beautiful songs.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel very honored that I was kind of picked out of the bunch and everything. I know there's so many talented artists out there that are submitting and getting their stuff sent in to all sorts of people. So it's always nice to find someone that connects with my music in the same way that I'm hoping. So,
well, it's great to have you here. Did you always know you wanted to be an artist?
Pretty much, yeah. I think for a while, I had a lot of different facets going for me, and once I first released my first original song, I kind of knew at that point. It was a bit of a way to get back at the people who were telling me you should have a plan B, and then I was like, I'm gonna go write a song about that and then release it, and then it chose it for myself. I was like, I can't go back to anything else after doing that. So it's been a really exciting journey since then.
Do you come from a musical family?
I come from a family that really enjoys music and brought me up on music. A bunch of my family members have played some form of music or have been very heavy music listeners. Both of my siblings have played instruments, but they've kind of diverged into their own paths and didn't stick with it per se, but my dad was a huge music fan. Same with my mom, but specifically my dad was always giving me new music to listen to. Really was the number one supporter when I wanted to start getting into all this stuff, as well as my grandparents. Lots of people that saw something in me before I really realized it and said that I wouldn't look back after, and they were definitely right. So, yeah.
Now, did you start playing the guitar or singing first?
I actually started with the piano first. Piano when I was 6 years old. I got into lessons and started learning Royal Conservatory and everything. And
shout out to all the music educators out there. That's great news.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the best place to start in a lot of ways. I ended up starting to learn from ear when I was about 12. The Royal Conservatory stuff, as I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, got very difficult to keep a 12-year-old motivated. So I wanted to learn some of the songs that I was listening to and enjoying, and that's where that came into play. And that's really when I started singing, and I started learning a little bit guitar. Guitar was probably about the age of 15 for me, when I really actually started delving into that and writing on it and getting used to having something that was portable. That was the main thing that I needed at that point. It was not easy to carry around a piano with you, so I was like, time to move to the guitar. And that's kind of where I've been centered.
Who were some of your earliest influences as some of the music that you loved when you were young?
Lots of classic rock. I was raised off of classic rock. Big fan of Queen growing up. Genesis as well. Big into Billy Joel, Elton John, a lot of the major classic rock people that you think of. Big into Supertramp as well. lots of really great songwriting from those artists. And from there, I kind of I held a very firm stance on the fact that classic rock was the only music that I ever wanted to listen to until I was 15, 16. Then I was like, there's actually other good music out there. And I started to get into artists, Ben Howard, Dermot Kennedy, Maggie Rogers, bit of like a folk pop sort of style. And that's kind of where I've centered myself now.
And there's so much crossover these days between all the genres. I love that. We have got artists on here who are classically trained doing pop albums. We have pop albums who, go into singer-songwriter territory. I just love that kind of hybridization that's going on.
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone's like just pulling from every different genre. You've seen a bit of the rebirth of the 80s over the last like 5 years. I'm a big fan of the 1975, and that is like their whole shtick. And I love seeing that come back, but in a modernized way. And I want to try and carry that to my music as well. So
tell me about your first song you wrote. What was it about? And you mentioned it was about getting back. And, what was it like when you wrote your first song and performed it in front of an audience?
I'd say that was my first song that I felt comfortable releasing, actually like playing in front of people. I had written a couple songs prior to that I still tinker around with for jokes and whatnot, but the first one that I released was called Who Am I? And I was in grade 10, and a bunch of teachers were trying to start telling you which courses you should be choosing for grade 11 and grade 12, and you weren't even done with that year. And counselors that were like, well, you have to start thinking about university now. And I was like, this is a lot to process. I don't even know what I'm eating for dinner tonight. And so trying to choose courses for the next 3 years of my life was a heavy idea to me. So I went home, I wrote a song that pretty much was about being 15 and the world crumbling, because every 15-year-old kind of feels like that. And out came Who Am I, where I was just trying to figure out where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And that kind of settled it for me. I played that song at a fundraiser that I was a part of, where a couple of producers, that was like the award that you would get if they decided to choose your song, was you got a free single that they got to produce. So there was a producer named Jeff Wardell that was there, and he heard my song Who Am I, and he came up to me after the performance, he handed me his card, and he's like, I want to record that song with you. And I was like,
wow.
And that was the first dealings with recording and putting a song out, and it was a really exciting experience, and I knew I wanted to do it many times over and over again. So
a portent of things to come. How exciting is that? So I always explore this with the singer-songwriters and the artists I have on the show. What was it like taking a song you wrote and then putting it through a producer in the studio? And I'm always amazed by how different things come out after you go through that process. What was it like with that song?
That was probably the most exciting part of it, was watching that happen, because the producer was all the instruments besides the piano and the voice, pretty much. I had ideas of where I wanted it to go, but I kind of let him do his thing. And I think the biggest change was watching the drums come in. We'd lay down some of the outer stuff, the bass, the piano, that sort of thing. And then as soon as the drum beat kicks in of a song, you can just see all the different ways that it's going to go. And it really took hold. It became a lot more of a rock song, rock ballad, we'll say. I wouldn't consider it rock per se at this point, but it was to me at that time. And that's where I think my music kind of stayed for a while, was in that like rock female ballad genre sort of thing for the first couple songs. And that was like exactly where I wanted to be at the time. And I've changed a little bit since then, as I hope I would. But it's still the same thing, going in and watching a song that you just wrote, you and a guitar, you and a piano, and then all of a sudden having all the different instruments and harmonies on your voice, and you just never exactly know where it's going to turn out. And yeah, that was kind of mind-blowing to me at the time. Still is, with a lot of songs that you just write.
It must be amazing to and be a singer songwriter, write these pieces that get out there, and then with the ability to distribute these days to a global population through the streaming platforms. I was on your Spotify, and you've got thousands of listens on your Spotify. What's it like to see your music go around the world?
Uh, it leaves me speechless. Anytime someone asks, I don't have much to say about it because those views behind, it's very easy to get caught up in the numbers because you can see it all happening, but it's so important to remember that those numbers are people who are listening to your music. And when you think of only 100 people listening to your song, you're like, wow, I only have 100 views. But then you think that 100 people in a room is a fair amount of people, and it really puts it in perspective when you have over 1,000 listeners on one of your songs and you've had people supporting you and you see that journey as you keep going. Just knowing that behind that number is a person. I think I've always been pretty good at recognizing that and trying to not get lost in it, which is why it leaves me so speechless. And knowing that they're from every different part of the world, that's never really been possible up until like the last 10 years, knowing that they're like this close to you. Like I'm talking to you from New York right now and I'm talking with you. Like that was not a possibility 5-10 years ago. I'm excited that I get to be a part of this time with music for that reason.
It is very exciting, and it's incredible. The digital age gives us so much, so much more discussion and conversation with our colleagues than ever was possible. And really, I've learned so much by speaking to people like you. What was it like growing as a singer-songwriter? You start off with what you know, and how has your singer-songwriting changed over the years?
I think you have to keep changing it in order to stay inspired. I think that's been one of the most difficult things for me over the past 2 years is finding things to write about when you're not experiencing exciting new things. We've been pretty much shut down in Ontario for the majority of the last 2 years. So getting out and experiencing new things that you can just write about has not been as simple. So you have to find other ways to keep yourself motivated and inspired, which tends to be different ways of writing. Instead of starting with just you and your guitar, you're recording different parts, you're looping things, you're just trying out new things to give you any sort of vibe as to where a song will go. And I think, like we were saying, in the digital age, that's as easy as it is. You can talk to someone who's on the other side of the world and they can send you tracks, and now all of a sudden you've got this whole plethora of new music, new people that you can grasp inspiration from. And I think that's something that has really helped me over the last few years, because it's very easy to get in your head and just there's not really been much happening. So
yeah,
you have to grasp
I'm a person who makes his career in live music and conducting and working with orchestras and singers, and I teach as well. And it's been devastating not to have that. But it's all opening up pretty rapidly. I think I think Canada is still locked up, but it's just opening up now, right?
Just starting to get back into live music and actual shows and concerts, instead of everything being online or like condensed into something. We're able to actually dance at concerts and stuff like that, which, I'm a dancer. When I go to shows, I want to move around.
Sure.
Exactly. You have to feel that sort of thing. And I think we've really been missing that. And it's really exciting to start having that as more inspiration to keep going and everything. But
so how did you keep going? Did you do a lot of songwriting? What have you been doing during this time when you've been, this kind of forced isolation? I said we've all become philosophers during the COVID era.
That's for sure. Yeah. I think it's I've been doing a lot of songwriting and stuff. I've just been trying to not fall into the habit of writing really sad music all the time, because I like to listen and feel sad music, but I don't always want to live in that. And I think I've been really attempting to not fall into that. So I've been listening to a lot of music, finding a lot of new music that inspires me in ways that I haven't really, dived into really different genres and stuff that um, I tend to take into my songwriting. When I listen to a certain artist for a fair amount of time, I can see little flecks of them in my songwriting. So I think listening to a lot of new music, collaborating with other artists, really important, and that's kind of what's been keeping me on my toes and excited for the revamping of the next few years as we start opening up again.
I'm pretty sure we're going to see an outpouring of great music, and including from you. Do you have plans out for an album or for some releases on the upcoming?
Releases for sure. I don't know about an album. I think albums are really tough to do in this day and age. It's a single world right now where everyone wants it right then and there. You post a clip of it and they want that single then. It's you're not looking for a storybook as much anymore until you're fairly established. And I love writing stories and listening to stories. So albums, I don't think we'll ever see an end to those, but I think we're living in a world where people really want that instant gratification of singles and whatnot. And I feel like that's a bit of philosophy that I've learned through the COVID era and everything, but probably a new single soon. I'd like to do an EP before an album. And then we'll see where that takes me. But a single for sure in the next few months.
We have a question this is from Jean from Toronto, who asks, who are some of your favorite singer-songwriters and why?
That's so difficult. Right now, the past few years, I've been very heavily influenced by Maggie Rogers. She's a fantastic singer-songwriter, pop folk sort of style. I feel like we write very similarly. Very inspired by her stuff. She's coming out with a new album soon, and I'm like holding on to that. I really like Dermot Kennedy. He's from Ireland, and he's got a fantastic way of conveying like images through songs, which is some of my favorite types of songwriting. Same with like Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell is unbelievable. You can see the entire story play out in your mind as you listen to her songs. Big into Bon Iver as well. That's a little bit more on the sound side though, because his sound is just so vast and great, and I don't even know the elements to get to that type of artistry, but very inspiring. Ben Howard's one of my favorite of all times. He's very much gone from a very folk style into more Bon Iver-esque stuff, and it's interesting to see his journey as he goes. Very good songwriting, very metaphorical. You don't always know what he's singing about, but it always hits deep somehow. So those are some of my favorites right now.
What's great about art is even the lyrics can be kind of not precise, and they can apply to almost anybody. And I love that about
Absolutely.
what art can do.
Yeah, applies to everyone. It's unbelievable.
So you've been highly acclaimed. You've won some really exciting awards for your up and coming, your career. What was it like getting those awards, and how has it spurred you to continue your work?
Yeah, the awards. I was just nominated for one the first year with the Josies back in 2018. I was nominated by a fan, and all of a sudden that turned into like an actual nomination. It went through the whole process and everything of being chosen, and me and my family went out to that show. It happened in Pigeon Forge in Tennessee, and I went just excited for the experience, excited to be nominated, to see people that I'd talked to for so many years and who knew me and my journey. And then they called my name, and I had sat awake the night before, and I was thinking, like, there's no way I'm going to win. Like, I don't even want to put that out in the universe because I wouldn't even know what to say, that sort of thing. So I was like, I'm not even going to think of something to say, which I definitely should have, because my name got called, and I I feel like my family had to shake me to be like, that's you, that's your name that was just called. And I went up on the stage, and anyone that went up before me was like really solid with their speeches, and I just went up and nothing. I sing really well, but I don't always talk so well, especially in front of crowds. And I just said my thanks, said my piece. I was just word vomiting at that point. And I've gotten better at it because I've ran into that experience a couple times, which I'm honored for. I've had a little bit more practice. I know to think of what you're going to say before going up. But like I said before, it's one of those things, it just leaves me speechless to know that there are people who see the same thing that my family sees in me, because, you know, your family always thinks the best of you, and it's a biased standpoint, but when you have other people who are willing to nominate you and then you actually win it in the end, it's like, that's so affirming, and you're placed in this category with so many other good songwriters, artists, and everything. And sometimes still speaking about it, I'm like...
Was that your first trip to Nashville?
Second trip to Nashville. My first trip was in 2017, and I went for a songwriters retreat with Judy Stakey, and that was like a religious experience for me. I think so fondly of that time. I met unbelievable musicians. It was 5 days of co-writing and just getting to be completely in an element with other people that wanted to do what I was doing. And I think that was like my first time really experiencing something like that. And it was in Nashville, so there was just a whole bunch of things that just made that experience just otherworldly for me. And I traveled alone. It was my first time on a plane. First time for a lot of things. First time going through customs. And it was just myself. So I had no idea what I was doing. No one around me knew how to help me to get through that experience. But I made it, and I made it back. So that was probably the biggest accomplishment out of all that. But I've been there 3 times now.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's such a special place, and we've had a lot of Nashville singer-songwriters on, and I'm always interested to hear how vibrant the scene is down there. They talk about like it's almost like speed dating, right? You go through these kind of songwriter work nights where everyone gets together and they find collaborative partners, and I just love that kind of exchange of ideas.
Yeah, and that's something that I feel like a lot of people get stuck on when first dealing with co-writing, because while I haven't done a mass amount of it, I do know when it clicks and when it doesn't. And that has nothing to do with the person that you're with. Sometimes it's just you guys aren't the same in how you write. You're not like catching on to the same ideas. And then you sit with someone that totally gets it. And it's like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, we could do some amazing things together. And it's important to remember to not stop after the first one if it isn't that way, because it's never that way when you first get into it.
Amazing. So what would you like to perform for us? Are you going to perform a couple songs tonight? That's fantastic. Tell us about the song and what it's about.
I think I'm going to start with my song. It's called Exhale. And the song, I had started to write and totally forgot about it. And I was going through voice recordings and like old videos, and I had found it. And I was like, why did I stop writing that? That was such a cool song. And I had started writing the verses at a very like low point, and I had finished both the verses but didn't really have a chorus for it yet. And by the time I had revisited it, I was in a very different mind space, so it was difficult to try and get back to the point where I had written those first verses. So I kind of played with that, and the verses are very low, very sad, and then the chorus goes into the idea of like, you know, things can change like that, and sometimes you just have to remember to take a breath. Things are gonna work out, and that's why the song's called Exhale. And yeah, it's a good song and a good reminder. I think we all kind of need that over the last 2 years. So
absolutely, thank you so much for sharing.
No problem. This is it. tears, can't cry no more. I'm weak and there's many fears of closed doors. They slam on freaks, I'll push to break them down, but close the gates to my mind. 'Cause I'm on the ground, I'm scared of fate, need to find. Oh, whoever you are, I'd like to know if I was placed here to live and let go. It's harder to try after you fail, but when you breathe in, remember to exhale, exhale. I'm such a wimp, I'm out of luck. Can't you see the lights gave me a limp? I need a crutch. Can you help me up off the ground so I can stand? I don't know what you have planned. Whoa, whoever you are, I'd like to know if I was placed here to live and let go. It's harder to try after you failed, but when you breathe in, remember to exhale, exhale. Here to live and let go. It's harder to try after you fail, but when you breathe in, remember to exhale, exhale.
Thank you. It's fantastic.
Thank you very much. I lost my headphone in the process. That's how you know you're really into it, apparently.
You didn't even need it. It's gorgeous, gorgeous. You have such a clear voice, and you're so communicative, like you're so like expressive naturally. How long did it take to find your voice to get comfortable with expressing like emotions to an audience?
That's a great question. I think the first, I've been performing for quite a while. I started out with piano recitals, and then I moved on to playing Christmas songs for my family on Christmas Eve, like my entire extended family, and my hands would be shaking, and I'd be worried to play these Christmas carols, and I wasn't even using my voice. And then I did my first open mic where I was in a room full of people, and I'll set the scene. There was drapes and everything. It was very hippie almost, and it was all these people that were so much older than me. I was 11, and I went up on stage and I played the slowest song ever. I literally would have. It was called Lullaby. The song was literally not the place for it at all, but just getting up there and doing it was such a huge hurdle. The only other thing that I had done up until that point while I was singing was school talent shows, which I'm not going to downplay playing in front of your peers, because that still makes me shake a little bit. Not knowing people in the crowd is sometimes a lot easier. But I feel when I first started expressing emotion was probably um, during those kinds of open mics and everything. But when I started playing with other musicians, when I'd go to an open mic and there would be people that would just hop on the guitar beside you or hop on the drums, and it was just me and the guitar, and then all of a sudden a drum beat would come in, and like you can just see the smile that comes out when that sort of thing happens, and like you can't replicate that. And I think it's so important to include those emotions when it's just you. And I think that was a huge turnaround for me, where I was like, that has to be part of every performance. Like, I want to feel that way. And I feel like, the veil was taken off at that point. It was like, why not feel while you're singing? Like, yes, I want to get all the notes right, but if I'm in it and I don't see anyone around me, it's just me and the guitar, me and the piano, that is so much easier. I'm not going to mess up in those moments because it's just me, but it's not. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And to me, it seems like whenever I listen to singer-songwriters, I always want to feel the emotion immediately. No matter whether the song's happy or sad, it's just you want to feel that individual expression. And I just think that's so important. And that's the first thing that captured me. Every phrase you sing is honest.
Oh, good. That's fantastic to hear. That's kind of the goal, and how I think most music should be interpreted. Like, you need to feel what's being said as well as played. So,
do a lot of your songs tend to be autobiographical or kind of things that are going on in your life, or has that changed as you gone on?
A lot of it is based off of personal experience. I think that's the easiest way to write. I think as you start delving into different ways of songwriting, you get used to telling stories from a different perspective, and I think I'm starting to get used to that a little bit more. But using your own experiences, for myself anyways, I know some people like to keep arm's length apart from the music that you're writing and you as a person, but for me, it has to be like very personal, sometimes too personal. Sometimes I don't even want to write a song because I'm like, then people will know too much. I don't always want to reveal that, but that's the beauty in it sometimes, is knowing that other people are experiencing the same sort of thing. And that tends to be where I get most of my inspiration for a lot of music.
It's very powerful. And it's so interesting. I find it amazing that people across the world can hear a song and have a totally different experience, but they can recognize the emotion and feel those emotions with you.
Absolutely. I tend to like it when artists don't always tell the exact story behind their song, and they leave it very up to interpretation, because some songs can be, about a family member, but someone views it as a love song. And like, that is really like a true testament to how well written a song is sometimes, is it can relate to anyone, any walk of life, anyone who's going through something difficult. It doesn't have to be what you're going through to know that someone's experiencing those same things. And that's definitely a driving force for a lot of my music. I like to keep it not too specific, but specific enough that it's my song still, but other people don't have to be literally in that moment to know how to express that emotion. So
we're getting some nice love from the audience here. One person wrote, "I relate to those feelings. This is W. Rick's Victory II, and the stack of song fragments I have is insane." So I can see those
great
ideas kind of, I'm a classical guy, but I just think of Beethoven's sketchbooks. He used to carry around a pad and just write down a quick sketch of each song. And I imagine you probably have the same, right? You probably have tons of ideas coming up and fragments of lyrics. And does the lyrics come first, or the song, or the music come first in your...
It depends on what I'm writing. I think a lot of it starts as an idea for a lyric. You hear someone say something and you're like, that'd be a really good lyric. And then maybe that kind of sticks with me when I start writing a song. I don't think I go into it fully knowing where a song is going to end up. You'll start off with a certain vibe. I like to do it all at once. And that's sometimes my fatal flaw, is that I like it all to happen at one point. If I stop writing a song, there goes the song. And that's not always a good thing, and I've learned from it. But I like to write the music and the lyrics as I go along. If I'm writing a verse, I'm writing the music and the lyrics at the same time. And I've stopped doing that as much as I can. I think it's a easy way to fall back into writing music for me, but it also limits me sometimes. But that's the way that I've done it a lot of times. Like it just keeps going and flowing. And if I stop it, then I'm worried that it won't pick up the same way. So I try and get it one and done, but that's an unrealistic expectation to set for myself. So try to not do that.
So what happens when you hit that the inevitable writer's block? How do you get out of that? Do you step away? How do you deal with that type of process?
I would love if someone could tell me that a little bit more. I need to figure that out still sometimes. I think, like I was saying before, listening to other people's music is a way to try out new things instead of getting in the same rut. It's why I tend to write on the guitar a lot right now, is because I know the piano really, really well. So I get stuck in doing, this will sound good with this. This has to work with this. I have to do these chords after these ones. Whereas the guitar, and I like playing in a lot of different tunings on the guitar because I don't know what notes I'm playing when I'm playing the guitar. People ask me, what key are you in? And I'm like, if you ask me on the piano, I could tell you. You ask me on the guitar, I'm in a different tuning. My fingers are just placed where it sounds good to me. I don't really know, but I also don't get stuck in the same repetition as I do on the piano because of that. It makes it easier to not run into those roadblocks sometimes because I'm just trying out new things. I'm not too worried about what sounds good, what's going to work, that sort of thing. So that's probably my suggestion, is to just try out a different technique, try out a different instrument or a different way of playing that instrument. And sometimes you might run into something that you never would have tried otherwise.
That's good advice. I really appreciate that. How much of when you do live sets, how much is going to be, in general, how much is going to be your compositions? How much is going to be other people's music?
I'd say if I'm doing a live show for a bar or something like that, and it's your generic 45-minute sets, 3 of them, that sort of thing. 2 of the sets are going to be mainly covers, and then the other set is originals, but those are all mixed in. So I probably have a good hour of original music, and then I'll pepper in the other good covers, things that people know, and get them dancing and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's probably where I'm at right now.
I was on your YouTube channel and listened to some of your covers. Even though you cover a lot of different artists, it's always with your your unique flavor and your communication. It's just I love that, to hear the to hear people's covered versions of songs, and it's always interesting to me.
It is, yeah. Every time that I go to cover a song, that's probably the first thing that I do, is I go to check out other people's versions of it, and I'm like, wow, I never would have thought that someone would be doing that song like that. Some of the newer songs that are out right now that are very pop and bass heavy, and you need those drum beats. It's really interesting to see the stripped down versions of that people do. One of my favorite covers that I like doing is it's a Jonas Brothers cover. I grew up on the Jonas Brothers because I have an older sister, and we when they came back together, it was the God's light kind of shone through that day. And I love covering their song Sucker. It is so fun, but it is such a poppy song generally, but to play it on the acoustic guitar, it's it adds something different, and it still gets people up and moving. It's very fun.
I have a fun Jonas Brothers story.
Yes.
I was doing a Handel's Messiah. I'm a music director at a large 6,000-seat venue down in New Jersey, right next to Asbury Park, where they do a lot of rock shows. And it was basically an open-air venue, so the doors slide open, so you get a lot of crossover. And that's the night before I was walking past Asbury, and they were getting ready to shoot the MTV Video Music Awards, and the Jonas Brothers were playing 2 sets to record for that.
Wow.
And it didn't stick with me. I knew there was going to be fireworks. It was the same time as my concert. So I'm in the first part of the Messiah, the rest it's going. All of a sudden, fireworks and helicopters, and
it was all for you.
And I'm in front of a live
believe it.
symphony orchestra. And later on, I did a recording with the Gaslight Anthem, a band called the Gaslight Anthem. I did a Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker, and there was a 50-piece orchestra. I recorded that, and they took it to the studio, and they added rock elements on top of it for a ballet production. And it turned out the bass player from the Gaslight parked next to near the auditorium, watched part of my Messiah, then went over and hung out backstage with the Jonas Brothers on that concert.
Oh my gosh.
Because they grew up together, and they're all friends. So, wow.
As it should be. That's crazy. That's unbelievable.
From Handel's Messiah to the Jonas Brothers, music is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a plethora there. That's for sure. You're seeing a lot of genres in one spot there.
Well,
Hilarious.
I'm a huge pop fanatic. I love rock music too. Even though I make my living in classical, I love that music is, everyone loves music in some way or one form, and I think that's what's the universal thing about it is, I just love that there's so many different types of human expression that we can all kind of enjoy.
Absolutely, yeah. If it doesn't work for you, it works for someone else, and it's even easier in this day and age to find, as everyone calls it, your niche, because 20 years ago, if you didn't suit what the general idea of what good music was, it was so difficult to find an audience that was interested in what you're doing. And now you can search and find your little corner of the world, and you can just thrive off of that. And it's really amazing. And I think there are a lot more music lovers because of it, because you can go search for what you actually enjoy, and it's not just what's fed to you. It's really cool.
What's some of the most interesting, fans, like messages you've received? Someone that sticks out at you.
Oh boy. I have a lot of really amazing, supportive people that, I love with my whole heart. But I also, I've gotten some interesting messages. I've had my share of marriage proposals here or there, and that's always a lot to deal with. It's like,
that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It's not something that I would have imagined for myself. And I know it's probably not the last, not to tout myself, but people find you and they're like, this is what I would like to, my first message to them to be ever is a proposal. And I'm married to a lot of people. What can I say? How can I say no at that point?
Performer's
right?
way.
Exactly.
You put yourself out there into cyberspace, you're going to get messages back, all sorts.
Exactly. Yeah, that can be the downside to some degree, but the stories that come from it are where it's at. So can't complain, really.
So now your recording is one thing. How do you balance the recording with your performing? And what's to you? Is there one that's more satisfying to you, or are they both different?
Oh, they're both completely different. I think someone posed a question at one point. Would you prefer to be on tour for the rest of your life or in the studio for the rest of your life? And I have no idea what my answer would be. I think was really amazing, and I was talking to a couple friends about it a couple weeks ago, is the amount of little jobs that no one talks about on tour. And even if you're not the musician, there is so much to do and be a part of in that scene. I don't think I'd want to be on tour every single day, every month of the year. I don't think I'd be able to do that. But just knowing how many little things that you could do to be a part of that is pretty unbelievable. Just the idea of doing the visuals for concerts instead of being the performer, or being part of the sound crew, or one of the musicians, or just the entourage, who knows. It's amazing, and I don't think people talk about that lifestyle enough, knowing that you're able to be a part of it in even the smallest of ways. I think I haven't done it enough, been on tour and live performing in the way that I'd like to get to yet, to really give an honest answer on that. Yeah, I have
a feeling it's going to be very soon for you. Life's going to open up, things are open back up, and you're going to be back on the road again very soon and making music for lots of people.
I hope so.
Do you have another song you'd like to play for us tonight?
Yes, I do. I've got this song. It's the most recent one that I released. It's going on about a year since I released it, which is nuts in and of itself. But this one's called Sweet Bitterness. Written in like the depth of quarantine and confinement and that sort of thing, and just imagining what it's like to not be in that moment, and thinking about just the little things that make you happy. Whenever I introduce the song, I talk about the feeling of like being a child on Christmas morning, or like the feeling of knowing you're going on a field trip the next day, just like that childhood innocence of like just the littlest things creating so much joy. And that's kind of where this song started out, and wanting to feel that kind of emotion again. So yeah, this is Sweet Bitterness. There is a fire waiting for a spark, but I don't know when it'll catch. And I am unsteady, rocking on my feet, no escape or going back to ignorance and bliss, happiness, simple as it was before all of this. Sweet bitterness, it opened up so much more. I would like to look at life with other eyes, so that I might find new highs that would make me wanna try. I wanna feel alive. I'm kind of reckless, also very anxious, and it's my fatal flaw. Perfection's what I crave, regardless of the skill, it ends up draining me of all. The ignorance and bliss, happiness, got me asking where, when, how we got to all of this. Bitterness, wishing I could change them now. I would like to look at life with other eyes, so that I might find new highs that I used to throw aside. I wanna feel alive. Living in the memories, the present's just too fast. Forgetting what I wanted, getting caught up in the past. The ignorance and bliss, happiness, we got to all of this. Sweet bitterness, it opened up so much more. I would like to look at life with younger eyes, so that I'm not just chasing highs that I used to throw aside. I wanna feel alive. I wanna feel alive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great sentiment to feel, look through the child's eyes and to recapture that excitement, that innocence. Very beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we all could use a little bit more of that.
Especially after the past months and years, we felt that's a great thought. Where can people go to find more about you and your work?
I'm on pretty much every social media. You can find me either under the name Madison Mueller or Maddie Makes Music is my handle on a lot of things as well. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, iTunes, any place that you listen to music, I'm there, just hanging around. And yeah, I post. I'm trying to get better at posting again. I think I've been off the track of that for a little bit, but I think I've got a little bit more content to share with people now. So I'm excited, and hopefully people will follow along for the journey.
Well, it's going to be a great journey to come as things are opening up in Canada, as you get back on the road and back in on the stage. And any news on when your next release might be?
I'm hoping in the next couple of months. I don't have anything specific yet, but I have some plans. The wheels are turning and everything, so probably early summer-ish. I don't want to put anything out there too solid yet, but that's the plan anyways.
We'll keep our ears and our eyes open for that, and I wish you continued success as you continue to write beautiful music and start performing again.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited that we got to have this conversation, and hopefully it won't be the last, because this has been lovely.
And I look forward to seeing you on the stage one of these days as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. Thank you for joining us tonight, and remember, keep music alive.